welcome to the Martini Shot. Today we'll be reviewing Masters of the Universe and going mad with power with an electric blue cocktail called the Skeletor. The presentation is a bit eccentric, just like the Skeleton Man himself, but if you can pull it off, the thing ends up looking pretty cool. So in a shaker, you're going to be needing half an ounce of lime juice, 1/4 ounce of blue curacao, 3/4 ounces of lychee liqueur, and 1.5 ounces of mezcal. And then for an extra optional ingredient, I'm going to be throwing in a little bit of electric dust. This is essentially a powder made from buzz buttons, a plant that causes a tingling sensation on your tongue. It isn't required, but to make the cocktail a bit more magical, you can throw in a tiny bit. Shake with ice, and you can strain this into a normal glass, but if you want to have the full presentation, pick something with a bit of a smaller mouth. That's because we're going to be resting a pineapple juice skull ice cube on top. And now you have the Skeletor. Just make sure you transfer everything to a normal glass when it comes time to drink. Now that we have our cocktail, let's get right into the review. He-Man is back, and just in time for Pride Month. Remembered as being your dad's third favorite toy line, He-Man was a product that became a cartoon, that became a cultural phenomenon, like 30 years ago. Safe to say, this new Masters of the Universe film feels like it's coming out a bit too late, don't you think? Sure, there recently was a She-Ra cartoon that had no He-Man and a Masters of the Universe cartoon that had He-Man for 10 minutes, but it's not like the masses were clamoring for some more buff men in funny outfits. Actually, wait, the masses have never not been clamoring for that. He-Man was the response of a toy company who wanted to try to compete with Star Wars, and this new film is a response from the same toy company who got shocked by Barbie doing insanely well. The franchise has really never not been a reaction to something else, so is there really any fun to be had with the Masters of the Universe in the year of our He-Lord 2026? Surprisingly, yeah, there is. Enough fun though? I'm not entirely sure. 2026's Masters of the Universe reminded me a lot of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves in its style, wit, and the fact that it's probably going to make no money. Which is honestly a shame because there was a surprising amount I liked here. I think this modern characterization of He-Man, a spellbound himbo who's in touch with his feelings enough to put the man in human, is actually pulled off fairly well. It helps that every actor in this is fully bought into the silliness of the setting and the aesthetic, but the film surprisingly doesn't feel like it's been over-medicated on irony pills. Somehow it manages to strike a nice balance between the winking and nudging at the absurdity of the world, but it never completely undermines it either, feeling actually sort of proud to be repping Eternia. Plus, some of these fight sequences are actually a lot of fun, getting real wild and winding with the camera work and the particle effects. Don't get me wrong, it's far from perfect. The pacing really drags its feet, and the world feels incredibly artificial at times. The comedy isn't too bad, but it's not exactly going to make you laugh out loud, even if you're a diehard fan, I reckon. But with all that, this is actually not half bad for what it is. A misguided cash grab for sure, but one that still manages to have a little fun along the way.
You can't do that.
Don't worry, the sword's mine.
The cast absolutely sells the weirdness of this world, with there not really being a bad performance from the main characters to even some of the one-off freaks we come across. Nicholas Galitzine is great as the buff but kinda dumb version of He-Man, with Bottoms being a great precursor to his final form. Okay, he's not dumb per se, just a little naive. It keeps him likable and far from being a boring protagonist, especially with his grapples with masculinity and manlyhood. Now, don't choke on your Mountain Dew, chuds. This isn't a wokeified adaptation, this is just taking a bare bones idea and putting a little depth into it. We get some nice back and forth with his friend Teela, played by Camila Mendes, but she's honestly left out to dry on character development, feeling mostly just like a competent sidekick. Her dad, on the other hand, is a different story. Idris Elba once again proves he can be the best part of an okay film, as his man-at-arms is a man who failed, desperately trying to become the man he once was again in quite entertaining fashion. Alison Brie, who I didn't even recognize first as Evil Lynn, is effortlessly campy in the role. And then there's Jared Leto. What dirt does he hold on Hollywood execs to be consistently landing these big roles? Sure, he's talented, but I can't remember the last time I really enjoyed one of his roles. Until this one. Leto is phenomenal as the big bad Skeletor. I had my hangups when I heard he wasn't going to have the nasally voice, but this version of the character is just as pompous and whiny as I remember him being. He actually serves as a decent antithesis to He-Man. Sure, he's nothing but pure evil, but his obsession with control and power is driven by the expectations of being the strongest guy in the room, which goes against He-Man's rejection of those ideas. The role is heavily costumed and the voice is modulated, so I don't know how much of Leto's performance actually comes through here, but for what it's worth, the guy does a great job at feeling menacing, yet silly.
That is the crescendo!
I was actually kind of surprised by some of the brutality of this film. It's nothing gory or anything, but people are straight up dying in sometimes gruesome fashions, so I just thought that was a little neat. There's definitely an air of the adult to the film, just enough that the kids might not catch on or be scared away, but plenty for the adult fans this movie is definitely trying to pull in. There's talks of fisting, giving people head, and swords dangling between creamy thighs, but I actually think the film keeps from being too overtly cringy with its attempts at humor. Like I said earlier, this isn't the most gut-busting of comedy at play here, but I actually found the jokes to hit more often than they miss. It helps that the script actually has a nice bit of wit to it. Genuine wit, not the artificial, haha, isn't this character named stupid kind of wit. There is some of that in here, and it's the worst parts of the comedy, but luckily it isn't the bulk. And while I can take or leave some of the bigger action set pieces in this, anytime someone's throwing hands, I was having a good time. The camera work and editing is so playful, punching in for emphasis and allowing the action to be seen well rather than being hidden by particles or the shake of a camera. So a good amount of positives, but there's some negatives too. This thing did not have to be nearly 2.5 hours long. I get there's a lot of lore and backstory to stuff in, but surely there could have been a more concise way to do it. Prince Adam's backstory, his time on Earth, and the final act could have absolutely had a few minutes shaved off of each. I just kept getting bored until the film went to its next setting, and even then the story doesn't entirely feel like a journey. Everyone just happens to be in the right place at the right time, so there doesn't always feel like you're getting a lot of character growth or narrative beats. The story itself is pretty bone dry, with a lot of those aforementioned themes not really having a worthwhile impact on the story. Then there's the visuals, which I think are mostly fine, but man, for every interesting practical set, there's an obvious green screen that takes all the weight out of the film. I get that not every fantastical space can be created practically, but the characters hardly even interact with their environments, like they were just pasted into them rather than them being part of the story. Eternia hardly ever feels like a realized place, both in a physical and a story sense. It's just a mismatch of environments that leave no real impact. For everything it does better than some modern superhero movies, there's still the usual trappings the movie occasionally falls into.
Mr. Allen!
It's Adam, dude.
So look, this isn't some amazing franchise revitalizing thing, mostly because no one seems to care about this franchise in the first place, but there are genuinely some elements here that are worth appreciating. It feels earnest to the IP, looking just as weird as you would expect these characters to. The script actually sounds like it was fun to write, at least from a dialogue point of view, and the whole thing feels like it could appeal to any age, really. It's solid, just maybe not that memorable. After all, we've been down this road so many times before when it comes to superhero movies and IPs being resurrected from the dead. Despite its attempts to break ahead of the pack, there are unfortunately enough elements working against it that keeps it from going from good to great. But a somewhat good movie it is, one that might actually be worth checking out somewhere down the line. Just wake me up when the Street Sharks are getting their own movie. The kids had their fun, but now it's the men's turn. For my rating, I'm giving this film 2.5 big metal fists out of 5. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Martini Shot. If you saw Masters of the Universe, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. And if you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.